Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. I will, of course, be your host for this evening, Callum, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Of course, this is the place where we talk about all the past week's shooting news and topics, and also the opportunity to have a little bit of a conversation. Anything that you might have burning to ask, then please use that chat box. Get involved, have your opinions heard, ask questions, raise topics, anything you think we should be discussing, any questions you want answered, or any opinions that you want to have heard or you want to counter or whatever. Get involved. Don't sit there and lurk. I welcome all opinions, even if they are wrong. Uh, and more importantly, of course, don't forget to hit that like button. Pretty much everything we're going to be discussing in tonight's stream isn't because of me. So if you don't like the topic, don't blame me. If you don't like the outcome of some of the things out there this week, don't blame me. It's not my fault. I'm just here to talk about it and report about it, and yeah, have a good old sit down and chat with you guys. So of course the big news, there really wasn't that much else. There's a couple of other topics that we will get to in the stream, but pretty much the big news, everything we knew that was, or something we knew that was coming, it's lead. It's this ongoing saga with lead ammunition, sort of started by Basque. Well, really, it was the EU that started it. It sounds like most things. And yeah, Basque, of course, the voluntary surrender and the announcement of the ammunition manufacturers being on board when they weren't, and that was a great popcorn moment within UK shooting sports. Everyone lost, as per, and then HSE steps in to basically say that they are going to look at potentially restricting lead, and there's been quite a major announcement. Rick B missed the start. Sorry, has Callum had his weekly Basque rant yet? Almost. Oh, no, I almost did it. Almost. There's time. There is time for this in this evening's stream. Trust me. So let's bring up what has changed, and there we go. So this is actually quite a really good summary. So HSE, the Health and Safety Executive, basically they are the sometimes quite annoying people that like to pry their nose into things and make sure you're not going to kill yourself or anybody else. Yeah, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to make sure you're not killing people or anybody else. I'm sure there's a few countries out there that could take note. UK Reach, public consultation on lead ammunition. So this is just a really good summary. So I'm just going to go through this. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should be pretty clued up by the end of it. So back in 2021, HSC, as the agency for UK Reach, the UK Reach is basically a copy of what was the EU Reach. The EU Reach is the ones that want to ban lead. We thought that we would get away with that because we're not in the EU anymore, but no, they created a UK one. Brilliant. It received a request under Article of UK Reach from DEFRA with the agreement of the Scottish Government and the Welsh Government to prepare an Annex 15 restriction dossier assessing the risk to environment and human health from lead ammunition projectiles. The Annex 15 dossier prepared by HSE working with the Environment Agency was to examine if further risk management action is needed to control the use or placing on the market of lead in ammunition for shooting outdoors in Great Britain. So they are required to publish proposals for restrictions on its website and undertake a 6-month consultation. This consultation took place between May and November 2022. This, again, if you don't know about this, like what rock have you been living under? We've talked about the restriction, the consultation, and how everybody who goes out there regularly and pulls a trigger should have put an answer, should have responded to it. Due to the high response rate, 2,759 responses, the restriction process was extended by 6 months. Like, I know we've covered this before, but that is not a high response rate at all by any stretch of the imagination. Um, it's pitiful, right? What's the membership of the NRA? Um, I think it's like I think I've heard numbers of 20, 30, 40,000 before. The membership of Basque, 150,000. They love to quote that quite a bit. I mean, the membership of the UK PSA is about 14, 1,500 people alone. All of those people are affected by this. And yet we have like a ridiculously low number of responses. I'm pretty sure on the live streams and videos that we've talked about this, we got more views than that. So, like, what is people playing at anyway? But they had to extend it. If even 10% of the firearm certificate holders had actually responded, they would have probably need 60 months to actually review everything. So they are required to formulate an opinion on risk assessment. This has been published, and I believe this is what we are going to be looking at. And basically, it's what their opinion is, what they think should go forward, how it should be dealt with. This opinion was developed after considering the responses from last year's consultation and using the advice from REACH, Independent Scientific Expert Pool, RICEP. They love their acronyms, don't they? HSE have identified risks from lead in ammunition, primarily to the environment, that are not adequately controlled at present. So this is the first things where it starts to get a little bit scary. They are making the statement that there are risks that are not adequately controlled. This just sets the path that we now know there are going to be controls be brought in. If HSC are saying that they need to do this, it's going to be done. At the end of the day, if they make these recommendations, if they have these opinions, if they've identified these risks and say there needs to be more adequate controls, and they don't bring in adequate control, there is a huge amount of liability there. Measures have been proposed to address these risks by restricting certain, but not all, uses of ammunition containing lead. A derogation is proposed for a small number of specified athletes who compete internationally to enable them to train and compete. And yes, that is pretty much as bad as it sounds. There is a social in economic consultation. We will be talking about this as well. I will be doing a full video on in depth on in terms of how to answer it, the recommended answers and all of that, as I usually do. We will be looking about that. We'll be looking on that later this evening. This is the first page. Unfortunately, they've made it so I actually do have to fill something in. I can't just skip through it like I have been able to do previously. So we will put some answers in there and actually go through that on stream later. But what you really want to know about is this. This is the document that has been released. This is what everybody is talking about. This is this is the real meat of what is going on here. Agency opinion on the Annex 15 dossier proposing restrictions on lead. Now, unfortunately, it's 104 pages long, so we are not going to have the time to cover it all. I'm certainly not going to have the time to cover it up all. This is going to be a group effort. Basically, people are going to have to dive into this. I'll put this, if you guys want to dive through, follow along with, or whatever, want to look at it later, there's the link to this there's the link to this document, and I'm going to put the link to the consultation as well below it, there in the chat box. So go and fill it in, go and read up, go and see if there's anything that needs to be responded. This is the approach that the UK PSA is taking on this. There is going to be a lead, and I believe that is going to be our regional director, who is ultimately going to form the response of the United Kingdom Practical Shooting Association. But what is asked, because there is so much here to go through, he has asked everybody in council, including members, to go through and raise anything that you think need to be said or be countered or whatever. So again, get involved. Don't sit there and just watch this happen. You can have your voice heard. You can protest to your shooting organizations, which potentially have a larger larger voice and probably a greater chance of having that voice heard. So everybody can do something, right? What are the proposed restrictions? Let's just skip straight to it. A load of blurb, but this restriction proposal aims to identify the risk posed by the various uses of lead ammunition and to recommend measures to address these where appropriate. The agency highlights that this restriction proposal does not amount to a complete prohibition on live quarry shooting or target shooting in GB. No, it might not, but technically handguns are not completely banned here within the UK. It's just incredibly bloody difficult to be able to get your hands on one, to be able to shoot within an internationally recognized sport. So that's really I hate it when they put these little lines in here. Like, honestly, it's just like kicking a dog while it's down. Just naff off. Like, oh no, we haven't completely destroyed your sport, just mostly. So what are they actually going to ban? As a result of the analysis, the agency is proposing lead shot, a restriction on the placing on the market and use of lead shot, with a derogation for individual athletes involved in target shooting as identified by the appropriate sporting body. Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't know at this time to what extent, sort of what they mean by athlete, what they mean by target shooting, what they mean by appropriate sporting body. So what they are saying is that they are proposing and will be pushing to move forward with, and I will say with probably a high likelihood of being successful, they will be restricting lead shot, the sale and trade of. They will be restricting the use of lead shot almost completely, apart from this derogation, right? It is going to be pretty much completely prohibited. We were finding some solace previously in this thought that they would give exemptions to sport shooters, to to athletes, to people taking part in sport, for them to be able to continue. But the wording and the general feeling that I'm getting from this is that it's going to be incredibly select. It is not going to be necessarily a blanket. The CPSA goes, well, all of our members are potential international athletes. They need to be able to train. I may be completely wrong. I may be being very pessimistic with this, but I think there's going to be quite a significant process, and probably quite a high burden for appropriate sporting bodies to be able to give the exemptions for lead. There's then going to be the issue of, okay, so certain athletes with exemptions can go and get their can go and buy lead shot. They can go and potentially use it, but there's two major issues here. If lead shot is by and large going to be prohibited in the sale and use of, are the cartridge manufacturers still going to continue making it when there's potentially only going to be a very select few in its customer base? Why it's either going to dry up completely, or it's going to become astronomically expensive. The way that these cartridge manufacturers work are through volume, right? And I know through some of their less popular lines, it takes tens of thousands of cartridges for them to really even switch on, to really be remotely interested in doing a particular line of cartridges, right? You really need to be talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of cartridges for them to be even interested. If they're not doing that sort of volume with lead, because there's so few people that are able to use it here in the UK, they're going to switch their production lines pretty much exclusively to steel, to bismuth, to all of the alternatives. So it will be great having these exemptions for our athletes, but with an otherwise complete ban and prohibition of it, there probably won't be anywhere to buy it or anywhere making it. Furthermore, this is all about stopping people spreading lead shot across the countryside. It's all about stopping people from polluting the environment. You know, other than the fact that lead is a naturally occurring element within our ground and already exists out there. But let's not let logic get in the way of a good gun ban. So you're going to have people that they're going to have potentially a very limited amount of people able to do it. They are probably going to struggle to get the ammunition, the lead ammunition, to actually make use of that exemption. And then where in the UK are they then going to be able to go and shoot? Because pretty much all playgrounds, all ranges are going to be prohibited from having lead shot used on their ranges. So you're going to have these derivations for people to be able to buy the ammunition and practice, apart from the fact that they're not going to be able to buy the ammunition most likely, and they're not going to be able to go anywhere to actually practice and use it. So it's my I always try to be optimistic and maybe weirdly the voice of reason when things like this come out. I'm finding it very hard, and of course selfishly, you know, this completely kills it for quarry shooting and game shooting, right? Let's just tick that one off. There is no way that lead shot is going to be permitted to be used for quarry or game shooting ever again after they get this through, right? So the game shooters and quarry shooters, you will need to move to an alternative. There's no voluntary transition anymore. It's mandatory, right? The target shooters, we thought we were going to have some sort of exemptions. Clay shooters, like it's find the alternatives. Now, not wanting to say one party has it worse than the other, because I'm sure there's reasons why clay shooters are going to have a very hard time of this, and of course the game shooters have they're not going to be able to use lead at all. But practical shooting, right? IPSC, internationally recognized on the pathway to the Olympics. We cannot safely use the alternatives with steel, right? With IPSC practical shotgun, IPSC PSG, which we have a world shoot, world championships in Thailand in November, right? We shoot regularly at steel targets. That is the sport. Shooting steel at steel is not a good idea, especially at the potential 5 meter range that you can engage targets at within these matches and within IPSC shooting. It's dangerous. The quantity of ammunition that we end up using dwarfs that of what a clay shooter would go through, or even a game shooter, or most rough shooters. So to use alternatives that maybe aren't as dangerous as a steel, it's going to be economically unviable for people to do practical shooting with the non-steel alternatives. We have to be able to continue using lead. There's it just absolutely kills it. Not being able to use lead. And of course, we have no indoor practical shotgun ranges, so they're all outdoors. Yes, they're not like, you know, a conventional clay ground where it's more open and more countryside. We tend to shoot in, you know, we tend to actually do quite a lot of shooting in rifle ranges and rifle range bays. And I think there's potentially one silver lining here, as we'll get to in a minute, with lead rifle ammunition, that they are going to allow the continuation of it to some extent. So there may be just a very small chance that we can wedge in there and say, well, what happens if you end up using steel shot on a range that is approved for lead rifle ammunition? Other than that, lead shot is going to be banned, or it's going to be incredibly hard to use. This is not good news. And anybody that wants to even start to think about moaning, if you didn't if you weren't one of those 2,000 people that bothered to do a response, you don't have the right, the audacity for you to sit there and complain, right? You are one of the people that are to blame if you did not um, put in your response. Yes, this is a concerted effort from the anti-gun lobby, the Home Office, the police, HSE, and anybody that wants to see further restrictions of firearms and shooting sports. But we had our opportunity to make a real effort to, at the very least, delay it. Again, this is one of the main points that I made. If they had to extend their review period by 6 months because 2,000 people responded, what would have happened if 200,000 people would have responded, right? You can't sit there and say that it wouldn't have had an effect. Lead bullets, a restriction on the use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting with a derogation for use at ranges with appropriate risk management measures in place. So where was they haven't so that's lead shot, that's target shooting. What? I've just twigged this. So they're going to put restriction on the use of bullets for outdoor target shooting with a derogation for use at ranges with appropriate mismatch. Okay, so this is actually something that we fully expected, and it is going to be a backdoor. It is going to be a backdoor ban. Sorry, a backdoor tax, right? And we need to see how sensible or unsensible they are with this, right? A restriction on the use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting with a derogation for use at ranges with appropriate risk management measures in place. Well, what are the appropriate risk management what are the appropriate risk management measures going to be? Is it going to be cost prohibitive to put them in place? Is it going to be economical for a range that may already be run on a shoestring budget because it's run by volunteers and maybe not there to make a profit? Are they going to be able to afford to put those appropriate management measures in place? Who is going to decide if they are appropriate and if they have met their bar? Are they going to have to pay a consultant? Are they going to have to pay HSE? Who are they going to have to pay or potentially pay to have it signed off? And is that fee then going to make it economically expensive? So it could be either too difficult to do, too expensive to do. There's so many ways that this can be used to completely kill outdoor target shooting. However, if they are potentially fair, if they are potentially balanced, I know it's one can hope. This may open the wedge for the likes of practical shooting, or let's say non-airborne target shooting for lead shots at these ranges. Again, I would have to ask, what are they achieving here by banning lead shot being shot into a backstop, but not banning lead bullets for rifle ammunition? Right? Like, what are they trying to achieve there? Like, one is more harmful than the other. Lead bullets for quarry. No restriction is proposed at this time on placing on the market or use of lead bullets for live quarry shooting. Now, this doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense if I'm gonna be completely honest, because one of the main things is about the human consumption of lead. That's why this all pretty much exclusively started with game shooting. This is why Basque went on a massive campaign to voluntary transition. This is why they got so in bed with the likes of the game meat industry, and the organizations that oversee the likes of game meat sales and stuff like that, because they were worried about the business of selling game meat. They were worried about human consumption and the optics of people eating lead. So let me get this right. There's going to be further restrictions on ranges that you put, yes, potentially a high concentration of lead into one spot, that can be recovered, that can be contained, but you're not going, and obviously isn't being shot into something that somebody is then going to consume, right? Everybody knows at a designated target range, you do not go downrange and treat it lightly, right? You do not go downrange and start handling things or licking things, right? You are around a heavy lead contaminated area. The appropriate PPE must be worn. This is certainly the way with practical shooting, but they are perfectly okay with a lead bullet being fired into a deer, that deer then being butchered up, and potentially that lead bullet being eaten, right? And again, plenty of 90-year-old gamekeepers and avid game shooters that have been eating lead pellets for years, quite literally, right? I'm not saying that that is necessarily an issue, but how come it's now seemingly more restricted for the target shooting rather than the quarry, where it was all about the quarry to begin with? It's almost like they've strayed off track here and gone after their true agenda. Lead in airgun ammunition. No restriction is proposed at this time on the placing on the market or the use of lead in airgun ammunition. Which again, I think is like great. Like, I'm not going to complain, right? I'm not going to say, well, if we're all going under the bus, they should come too. Um, but it is like, but again, no restrictions for airgun when they're shooting into things that again you're going to eat. Wood, pigeon, squirrel, all of that. Again, this is all about the consumption of lead, not necessarily people downrange handling target. Again, I don't know why it's a target. Why quarry shooting isn't affected as much with the likes of rifle ammunition with lead bullets, but suddenly with quarry it's fine. Like it's all very odd and sort of just smack. So in summary, we've got the use of lead shot for target shooting is going to be effectively prohibited. An exemption is going to allow a number of athletes. We don't know how big that number is going to be, how easy it is going to be for the athletes to get it. They're going to have to be identified by an appropriate sporting body. We don't know what that is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be the likes of the UK PSA, the NRA, the CPSA, or it's going to be potentially even a higher sporting organization. There were also, again, I haven't had that much time to go through and look at it myself, but Connors was picking up on something where there's going to be the appropriate sporting body, and then I think it was the like appropriate but there was like the enforcement body, and it sounded it sounded like that firearms licensing is going to get involved with this as well. That's what the way that he explained it, the area of this report that he ended up straying onto, the way he said it, we both sounded, well, we both thought it sounded like it was going to be the firearms licensing department that effectively had the overall say of whether somebody had the justification to be able to go and do it. Now, that is sort of speculation. That isn't fact. That is purely what we were speculating and what it sounded like to us, which again sort of comes full circle that this really isn't about health and safety. This really isn't about the consumption of lead. This is about just the further restriction of firearms ownership, the further restriction of firearms use. Why would firearms licensing be involved? And if this does come out that it is firearms licensing, that gives you the final check to say, oh yes, your range is adequate for lead. Yes, you have the adequate approval to be an international athlete. Why is firearms licensing getting involved in that? This isn't about firearms licensing. This is about health and safety. This is about what does firearms licensing know about lead, right? Seems very, very odd. So needless to say, still think Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be like, this is it, sell the guns, can't be asked, try our best, it's all on the way down. There is still time to get in contact with your MP, and I would urge you to do so. If you can send an MP a simple letter as, um, please, on the opportunity that you get to vote on further restrictions to the use of lead ammunition, please vote against. As your constituents, as your constituent, I am urging you to vote against any further restrictions on lead ammunition or firearms within the UK. Just do that. At the very least, you can say you've played your part. You can say that you've done your bit. You can then do things like fill out the consultation. You can then do things like write to your organizations and plead with them, write to more MPs, write to the Prime Minister. You can do a lot more. Everybody is able to do it. We're only convincing ourselves not to if you don't. So it's, yeah, it really isn't looking good. Oh, that's right. We're giving the was doing the summary. So of course the main one that so many people are going to be affected by, well, you know, bearing in mind where was the, where's it gone? I've scrolled past it. Proposed restriction. Like, bearing in mind the numbers here, right? There's like 500,000 shotgun certificate holders. There's 150,000 firearm certificate holders, right? So by and large, shotgun owners are the largest proportion of licensed firearms owners here within the UK. This is going to affect every single one of them. If you have a shotgun certificate, this is going to affect you. It sounds like I am just literally repeating myself all the time, but I still don't think that people are getting it through their heads about how much this affects us, right? I can't believe that the majority of people that will watch this stream, will watch the videos, that will see these posts, like, why don't we have the hundreds of thousands? There's 500,000 people at a minimum that this one restriction will affect, right? Whether you've switched or not, right? This is going to affect you. Like, you can already be on the steel train, right? You can already be there fully switched. Like, this is still going to have a negative effect, because it's going to put people out of business. It's going to put rangers out of business. It's going to put playgrounds out of business. It's going to put shops out of business. Like, people are going to end up giving up the sport because of this, right? So you might be happy and justifying that, oh, it's fine, it doesn't matter anyway, I'll use my still shot. But when half the people give up their certificates and half the people stop buying ammunition, half the people start going to the ranges, we're going to lose half those ranges. We're going to lose half those shops. We're going to lose half. You know, I said to Connors on the way out today, I would be surprised if within the next 3 or 4 years we don't lose at least one of the major shotgun cartridge manufacturers. Be that Hull, be that, well, our money. Now, annoyingly, I'm not trying to speak bad about Hull, but Hull, I believe is still like the only independent English cartridge manufacturer. Game Ball might be. I know Ely is owned by a Spanish company. I can't remember if somebody else owns Game Ball. So Game Ball might be truly independent, but they tend to go. They are a lot more game shooting, and they do already have their line of game shooting cartridge, the lead alternative. So I think they'll be okay. Ely has the international market because they're effectively an international company. But our money was on Hull. Nothing against Hull, because we've actually just changed over to Hull for PSG. Really getting on well with their ammunition. But yeah, I just can't see how this isn't going to have a monumental decline on our industry. For what? To get rid of something that occurs naturally in the ground. Right, and again, the same old points are being made. We still have lead flashing on roofs. We still have lead pipes in the ground. like there's still probably plenty of playgrounds with lead paint as well. Um, it's nothing more than a veiled justification to ban shooting. That's where we're at, you know. Ricochet, imagine how expensive ammunition will be if lead does get banned. Well, when you say ammo, like it is being banned. It is being banned for lead shotgun cartridges. Lead shotgun cartridges are being prohibited, apart from most likely a very few select people. So, um, the use of lead shot for target shooting will be prohibited. There will be a derogation which will allow a number of athletes, as identified by an appropriate sporting body, that are required to continue shooting lead for the purposes of international competition and training. The sale and trade of lead shot would be prohibited. Again, apart from the derogation which will allow athletes to buy it. And again, that's the thing that I want to stress here is that, and what I was touching on earlier, if for by and large you can't buy and sell lead shot ammunition anymore, why are shops going to stock it for those very few people? It's going to become monumentally difficult to be able to buy lead shot, right? Daniel, just buy up now and sell high. The thing is, what you are proposing there is it will be illegal, right? What they are saying is that what they are proposing is to make it a criminal offense to buy, sell, trade lead shot ammunition. You won't be able to just stockpile it and sell it off legally, right? Yes, you might have those derogations, those exemptions, and yeah, potentially you could sell it to them for a profit because it's going to become expensive from the manufacturers alone. It's yeah. Uh, David Kiddle, rubber buck and slug in the USA. The problem is though, rubber buck and slug. Well, is I'm pretty sure that's section 5 over here. Although I can believe that the Americans can make a rubber round that is definitely not less than lethal. I don't know how that's necessarily gonna fly. Well, quite literally. So yeah, so complete. The sale and trade of lead shot will be prohibited. Apart from that derogation, the sale or trade of lead bullets would not be prohibited. Since these would be continued to be available for indoor shooting. So I guess that is another thing to clarify here is that indoor shooting of bullets of rifle ammunition will still be okay, right? So I know I'm very doom and gloom about the lead shot. I can't put a positive spin on it. Okay, I can try my hardest, but I can't put a positive spin on the lead shot. It's shit, right? It's going to be utterly horrific. But the silver lining is that if you are into your indoor shooting, your indoor target shooting, then you will see no effect. So lead ammunition, lead bullets will still be available because there will be no restrictions or any prohibition put on the indoor use of bullets. Now, for me, there must be, or I'm going to end up selling my house. There must be some way to continue using lead shot. Well, like I saw a video of the gun shop, TSG, Johnny at TSG, at that massive. I believe it's in Germany. It's that big. It's an indoor clay pigeon shooting. Pretty sure it's Germany. Let's see if I can find it. The question has to be is why have they not entertained or should they be putting in an exemption for indoor use of lead shot? Hanger or maybe an older air balloon hanger. But still, I'm assuming lead shot, from live touch ground, over and under, shooting indoors. Maybe this is where practical shooting is. If you want to continue practical shotgun and continue here in the UK, play pigeon shooting and want to continue shooting here in the UK, then we need to find site. This is where we need to go. Because I can't see how HSE can have any of the lecture environment, wildlife, so yes, I will be spending later on right move looking at commercial trade tracking. So I have anything better to say. So maybe even though I'm not aware of anywhere indoors at the moment that you can fire lead shot, maybe there does need to be the exemption put in there. And maybe that is how you justify to HSE and the government to allow the continued sale of lead shot. Well, hang on a minute. You're not banning the sale of lead bullets because indoor target shooting with bullets is continuing, but you're banning lead shot completely, even though we could theoretically continue to use it indoors. Your argument here for the environment doesn't stack up indoors, so continue to allow us to have lead shot. Oh, sorry about that. I've just deafened you all. Well, you can turn it down. Anyway, you were more. It was more for you to just be able to see it. Thing is, I have everything muted. I literally throughout the entire stream don't hear anything. It's all muted here, so I don't get the feedback. So yeah, apologies for that. I forgot. Where are we on the summary? So lead shot for lead shot for shooting is going to be prohibited. So completely prohibited for live quarry, and pretty much prohibited for target shooting. The sale and trade of lead shot will be pretty much prohibited, apart from a few exemptions. The sale of trade of lead bullets won't be affected because it's indoor ranges. The use of lead bullets for live quarry shooting will not be prohibited. The use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting would be prohibited with a derogation, with exemptions for somebody for places that meet the required criteria. The use of lead ammunition in air weapons will not be prohibited. The sale or trade of lead ammunition for air weapons will not be prohibited. So that's what we're looking at. Of course, again, this is, yeah, it's not good. I don't know. Let me know what you're saying about this. Something I have never looked into, but I would have thought steel is going to be harder wearing on the gun barrels. Absolutely, this is one of the main considerations that people have had from the start. Steel, your gun. So in terms of proofing, for those of you that aren't aware, within the UK, we have proof houses. Every firearm, every licensed firearm that is sold to the public has to be proofed. There are 2 proofing houses, one in London, one in Birmingham, and you get a proof mark from it. The only exception to a gun in the UK being sold that's been proofed by those proof houses, if it's been proofed by a European proof house, which I believe there's an exception for. But anyway, it needs to go to somebody with what I imagine smoking a cigar and a large wiry mustache, putting a rather large load into that gun, pulling the trigger and seeing if it goes bang in a bad way. So basically they test the guns over what they are going to be using to make sure that they are safe, that they're structurally sound. With the use of steel, you have to have your gun effectively steel proof. Now, you can take if you've got an older gun that isn't steel proofed, it hasn't got that stamp to say that it's what do they call it? It's the I always forget what it's called. It's the leaf, not the leaf. The somebody's gonna one of you guys are gonna know what it's called, and but it's this one mark that denotes that it's still proofed. Now, if you've got a gun that isn't still proofed, there's nothing stopping you from going out and using steel. You just don't know whether you're going to come back, because if you have a catastrophic failure, because there's more pressure, um, there's more wear in a way. You may have a catastrophic failure that you may absolutely, well, you might kill yourself, right? So what people are having to do is make the decision, and this is the other thing as well. When I went to Wadswick shooting school and Wadswick country store, I got into a very long conversation with Stuart down there, and there's this really sad dilemma that people are having, right? If you've got a gun that's been in your family for generations, but it's not still proofed, do you take the risk of sending it to the proof house and risk it coming back in bits? No, it didn't pass, and it had quite a catastrophic failure. Or, do you just never use it again? Or like, what do you take that risk or not? Yes, it pays off, because first of all, if you get a steel proofed gun, it suddenly is worth more, because it's still proofed. You can continue using it. And he had this long line of these guns, these secondhand old guns, and basically he couldn't sell the ones that weren't still proof, but these ones with this particular mark, not the cut fleur de lis, so that's it, fleur de lis or whatever it is, that's what it is, not kite mark. Fleur de lis, I'll bring it. Fleur de lis. Steel proofing. There we go. Fleur de lis steel proofing. Shooting UK. That will be pretty good. Here we go. Share this tab. Accept all. Here we go. Will my shotgun be safe with still shot cartridges? With all the discussion about a move away from lead shot in the next 5 years, here are the answers to questions about still loads. How do you know if if I can use still shot in my shotgun? Well, that sort of makes it a bit obvious, but that's the mark there. That is the mark that tells you that your gun is fit for steel proof. There you go. The all-important fleur de lis mark that shows your gun is safe for steel. So does it actually say? I sort of want to see examples of what what happens. So how would I know if a gun has been damaged by steel? The damage may be subtle, a slight swelling of the barrel at the choke. Sometimes the gun's owner is unaware there is a problem until this is pointed out. For example, some owners assume their guns will handle steel because they were proofed for Magnum cartridges. However, if the fixed chokes are too tight, just one cartridge up the barrel would be sufficient to cause bulging. And then once you get so other steel shot warnings, some older Winchester over and unders may be stamped Winchester proof steel. However, this refers to what the barrels are made of, not what can be stuffed up them. Rules for steel shot use. Check for the fleur de lis proof mark, no more than half choke. If in doubt, use bismuth. Always read the packaging on your cartridges with removable chokes. Only use those clearly marked as suitable for steel, being an alloy of iron plus carbon steel can rust. People tell horror stories of older steel shotgun cartridges in which the contents have rusted or even fused into a solid slug. That's a new problem. That's a problem that I was completely you're still really tiny, aren't you? There we go. Sorry. Um, not. I mean, I'm reading it out to you guys, but this is the article. You can read along with me. Um, of older still shot cartridges which the contents have rusted or even fused into a solid slug. Modern still shot is coated to prevent rusting, so this should not be a problem. However, if it still makes sense to store your cartridges in a cool, dry place. Basically, there's a load of problems with still shot. There's a load of problems with um, using it and using it in guns that aren't still. Rabbiting on, a friend of mine found that the still shot in some of his cartridges had rusted together. Luckily, they were in clear casing, so were visible. Maybe a storage issue, but a potential accident. This is the thing: is it's like we're doing this for public safety. We're making all these changes to make the world a better, safer place. And what happens if we start having more people out there having catastrophic, barrel failures? What if we have issues with still shot fusing and causing these what if people literally start dying through no fault of their own because we now can't use lead? And there's still the unanswered question about, like, lead is inert. Yeah, you don't want to be swallowing it. We don't want our wildlife ingesting it and eating it, right? But it is inert. If you leave a piece of lead out in a field for 100 years, when you come back, you're going to find a piece of lead sat in a field. You put a block of steel in a field for 100 years, you're not going to come back to find that steel, right? You're going to come back to find various chemical reactions and various chemicals that have seeped and reacted into the environment and potentially into our wildlife. So again, what they are achieving with this, I do not know, but it it doesn't it really doesn't look good for the majority of shooters here in the UK. Well, I say the majority. Air gunners are completely unaffected. Just to remind you guys, there's millions of air gunners out there, so technically they are the largest group of shooters. They are going to be unaffected. But in terms of licensed firearms owners, the 500,000 shotgun certificate holders, this is going to be an absolutely mammoth change. And I don't think in any way, shape, or form it's going to produce a public benefit. Dan CA, lead is is in effect a lubricant, and white metal bearings have been used for years. The problem with steel will be scoring of the bore, and that equals drag. Yeah. So again, what Nitsa was asking about, using steel within your barrels, is it going to wear your barrels more? Yes, it's going to be more abrasive, right? I'm sure many of you have looked down the barrels of your shotgun after shooting some lead, and you can see the lead skid marks, for a lack of a better phrase, on the inside of the barrel. When you squirt some lead cleaner down there, and it helps dissolve it a little, like release it, and you have to give it a good scrubbing, and then your barrels are mirror finish, right? That's because the lead is softer than your barrels, right? But steel isn't a particularly soft metal, and you're not going to get that skid marking. Or you will, but it will actually be scoring of your barrels over a prolonged period. No matter whether your barrels are safe or proofed for steel or not, you are going to get significantly higher levels of wear, right? So our equipment is going to suffer because of this. Again, in especially practical shooting, where you can be putting, we're looking at splits, shot to shot times of like 0.2, 0.3 seconds, right? Um, even most novice shooters can get half-second splits, right? So you're doing a shot every half a second, right? On a 28 round stage. Now, okay, there will be some movement, but you can be shooting pretty fast, right? You can be doing a box of cartridges in 20 seconds. Let's just say over 12 stages. So you're putting this ammunition, you're putting a large quantity of ammunition through your gun at a very high rate. Um, like, it's not a good recipe. Your barrel is going to heat up. There's going to be a lot more wear, a lot more, abrasion. So barrel replacement is going to be a really good business to get into going forward. That's for sure. Double tap air gunning. Does this affect air gun lead ammunition? Just to confirm, so it's 3 tiers, and the air gunners have got off scot-free. Lead ammunition is sort of being affected. For Quarry, it's for live Quarry, it's not being affected. For indoor target shooting, it's not being affected. For outdoor target shooting, you will need the site that you are using will need to meet whatever new criteria they're going to bring. For lead shot, which is the worstly affected ammunition, it is the all the live Quarry shooters and the game shooters. That is going to be completely prohibited now, and for the target shooters, it's only going to be a very select few individuals that is going to continue, going to be able to continue. So yeah, air guns are okay, pretty much. Like rifle ammunition is okay, and lead shot is getting absolutely screwed. Elite Hyper 31, I'm very close to our local MP. I will be writing a letter to mine. Absolutely. Again, I would I would just plead with you, get in contact with your MP. And I did see something about how many likes are we up to? We are at we've got like 100 people watching and 37 likes. So just a quick reminder, if you are here watching, then you must be liking. I don't know why you would be watching if you didn't like, so hit that like button. It's absolutely free. It makes a huge difference to the channel. It helps us reach new people and get this message out. Crypto Sam, it's a step for them to enforce ammunition control. Right now, anyone can buy a lead mold and make bullets with with plastic rounds. It's completely different ball game when it comes to making at home. I don't get exactly what you're saying with that. Of course, you could just get, if you wanted plastic ammunition, just get a 3D printer. Don't know. Richard Dunlop, the term lead shot, I assume they mean firearms/shotguns. Does it include lead pellets for air guns? No, just to confirm, this does not affect. This is, when I say lead shot, it is BBs, right? It's lead BBs. It's something for a shotgun, nothing else. Is anybody getting adverts during the stream? So just as an FYI, in terms of the adverts, YouTube does it automatically now. So previously I had skippable. They should all still be skippable. Previously YouTube, it was like a periodic thing where it would put ads in like every 20 minutes or half an hour, which if they flashed up, you could just skip. Like YouTube's automated that now. So if you're seeing more ads than usual, let me know, because that's YouTube being YouTube, and I can look into getting it getting it reduced. I do have the ability to put ads in whenever I so choose. So watch it, and I can pause ads. Unfortunately, because I am still down to the one streaming machine, I can't have the screen. Usually I have 2 screens available to me: the most important screen, which is actually the control screen, and then so the actual control screen to the camera and everything else, and the chat box and all of that, and also where I'm showing you stuff on the screen. And then I have another screen that is showing you the YouTube control center. The YouTube control center is currently a tab, so I can't see it, so I can't tell you when there is or isn't ads. So apologies, but you're not paying to watch this, so you can at least watch an ad every now and then. Callum needs a new Mac. Yes, I do. If anybody wants a career in playing stupid, I would advise you go into insurance. It's, I mean, the silver lining is that you only need half a brain to be able to like outwit them at every step, and they love pointing the fingers at each other. So the current hold up, but it's not Callum's FAC update now. It's Callum's PC update. So for those of you who aren't aware, I managed to give my my MacBook a slight shower. Well, it wasn't really a shower; it was more of a submersion. Yeah, if you've got a Volvo V50, check your roof; they can leak. It's why I just should be driving the Cayman all the time. I wouldn't have had the issue anyway. Yeah, so oh no, I can't drive the Volvo anymore. It leaks. I'll take the Cayman instead. Yeah, just saving the environment. So yeah, anyway, it got very wet, and yeah, laptops don't like being wet. And I'm currently having a really silly battle with my insurance company because they won't tell the repairers how much the single item limit is on the Mac. So the repairers are defaulting it. Sorry, not the single. That's it. I've got the Mac is separately listed on the insurance to its full value, not the single item limit. But the repair company doesn't know what the Mac was listed as for its full value, so it's they've defaulted to the single item limit, which is about a third of what the Mac actually cost, and significantly under what it's going to cost to repair. So they're saying you need to speak to insurers. I spoke to my insurers. They said they would speak to repairers. They haven't spoke to the repairers. So now I'm saying to the repairers, don't give a shit. You speak to the insurance company. I'm not getting paid for this, which admittedly didn't go down very well. But again, I'm not being paid to do their job. If they want to compensate me for my time to do their job, I'm more than happy for it. I'll probably do it a darn sight quicker and better. So until the repairers and the insurance company pull their fingers out of each other and actually start talking to each other, it's sat in a warehouse somewhere waiting to get repaired. And I don't really like the idea of going out and having to fork out of my own pocket for a brand new MacBook. That's why you have insurance, you would think. So yes, anyway, that's no sign of the new MacBook, but I did do a little bit after last week's, what you guys were calling it, a potato stream. I did go through and have a bit of a clear out of various caches, and I made sure to restart the Mac and actually kill every background operation that is potentially sucking up RAM or CPU. And I think this week is better. I don't know. Anyway. Jean-Marie, a bit late. From what I read, target shooting is going to be largely unaffected, provided the range is suitable. That would be a good summation. Apart from, we don't yet know what suitable will be, and again, I think we have to have our eyes open, and we have to be prepared for them to make becoming a suitable range cost prohibitive or just so bloody difficult that people just give up. Mark, you can skip the ads, but only after 5 seconds or so. Okay, that's typical YouTube ads, unfortunately. You just have to work with that. You just have to lose 5 seconds of me. I'm sure you can manage. Aaron T just joined. Is lead banned for target shooting with rifles? So Bisley is basically finished. Now, again, they are prohibited. So the way that it's worded. Let's bring it up again. Obviously, for anybody that's just joined. Let's bring up what HSE have said. So lead shot, this is bird shot. This is stuff that you're going to be using in a shotgun. A restriction on the placing on the market and the use of lead shot with a derogation for individual athletes. Have I made you big again? There we go. Yeah, it has. With a derogation for individual athletes involved in target shooting as identified by the appropriate sporting body. Lead bullets, a restriction on the use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting with a derogation for use at ranges with appropriate risk management measures in place. So yes, it will be the outdoor use of lead bullets for target shooting. Wait a minute. Huh. How about that? So there is a restriction on the use of lead bullets for outdoor target shooting. But as we've talked about, and to update you, no restriction is proposed at this time on placing on the market or use of lead bullets for live quarry shooting. Right. So there's no restriction to live quarry shooting, but there's a restriction to outdoor target shooting. No, officer, I was shooting at the deer. That is going to become an outdoor target shooter's most favorite saying going forward. Guarantee it. And the funniest thing is, talking specifically about Bisley, there are regularly deer on sticks on the ranges. No, officer, I wasn't target shooting. I was quarry shooting. Prove it. There was a you could just all of the target shooters are going to be sat there wait as soon as a deer comes onto the range. Fire. Oh, I hit the target, missed the deer. So this is ridiculous. You could a range that gets that basically doesn't get the approval to be able to shoot lead on it, right? Can no longer target shoot there, but you could turn it into a quarry shooting center. That's how utterly bloody ridiculous this all is. But in terms of specifically Bisley and being sensible for 1 minute, you would hope, and I would be utterly, regardless of how expensive it is, regardless of how difficult they make it to put the appropriate risk management measures in place. Firstly, I would like to think that Bisley is either there or very close to being there already, right? That's one thing that I guess Basque is proactive in the banning of lead. Let's ban it ourselves first before they do. So you would hope that they are there or thereabouts already. And even if they are not, I just I don't even know where to begin if the NRA turn around and say, no, we are banning the use of lead ammunition on this range because we can't put the adequate risk management in place. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't a possibility. I'm not saying that organizations like the NRA can't do stuff like that, but I would have to question what universe we are living in. So I would be pretty safe, pretty confident in the fact that Bisley will meet the requirement, will meet the standards put in place to be able to shoot lead bullets on on Bisley at their ranges. Because if the NRA can't do it, like there's no hope, right? If the NRA can't get the National Shooting Center to be approved to shoot lead on, your volunteer run, 50-person club on one little range in a wood somewhere has absolutely no bloody hope. So no, Bisley isn't finished. I really bloody hope they should be able to put the appropriate risk management in place. Wouldn't mind watching the ads as long as it wasn't for tampons, cruises, and generally nothing to do with shooting. Well, if anybody knows, I monetize the channel purely to recoup some of the legal expenses it costs me. Seriously, I could have quite a nice extension if I could reimburse my legal expenses that this channel has caused me. So yeah, and it isn't free to run a YouTube channel. So, AdSense, YouTube revenue, whatever, YouTube money. I would quite happily turn off ads if we had some regular supporters and sponsors of the channel. Unfortunately, that happens to be Magload, which is like me and Connor's anyway. So I sort of didn't really biznatch that well with that. Oh, we've got a supporter of the channel. Who is it? Oh, it's also the company that I run. Right. So you're just paying yourself. Yeah, basically. So if you know any other companies that want to support the channel, I'm always ears open. Brian Sullivan just watched a video of 5 million rounds fired non-stop through a Vickers machine gun with no damage to the barrel. Was it lead? Was it lead or steel? EnglishShooting, watch the repairer, because if they are not Apple credited, it will be non-Apple parts. I had mine fixed and now it overheats when I'm using Safari and I'm not one bit happy. Thank you very much for the heads up. I know this is a shooting channel, but this is also one of the arguments that I am currently having with the insurers. But basically the whole MacBook got wet. Right, everything got wet and was wet for at least 3 or 4 hours. Every electronic component of that Mac, in my mind, and my mind, or having obtained a degree in electronic and electrical engineering, is no longer suitable to be used. Right, you can't reasonably justify reusing any of those electronic components and give any sort of warranty. So I asked this, and they were like, well, we will just replace what we think we need to replace. Like, okay, so what happens if you send it back and one of the electronic components that was submerged in water that you haven't deemed it necessary to replace then breaks? Where do I stand? Well, anything we've replaced, we warranty. So yeah, I think they will be getting an email tomorrow. And I will be asking the question as well: are they Apple credited, and will they be genuine Apple parts? Because again, it was genuine Apple before it got sent to them. I want it to be genuine Apple when it returns. Daniel, easy way to reduce the number of FACs, make it too expensive and tiresome to enjoy the sport. That is the tactic that they have been using for the for a very long time. There are now 2 ads, so that's 10 seconds of the stream. I'll put a third. If you keep moaning, I'll put a third. You can just say EnglishShooting. You can just say a really bad shot and hit the center of the target by mistake. I was aiming for the deer, I promise. That needs to be a patch. That needs to be a patch. Again, they really don't think this through, do they? No, officer, I was aiming at the deer, like Richard Wayne, do you have to zero your rifle indoors before you go outdoors to shoot deer? Yeah, again, you can go out there and shoot as many rounds off at a deer, but you put out a target and fire one shot, that's it. All the environment dies. Daniel, seems like it's mostly targeting SGC holders. Rifle ammunition seems pretty much unaffected, same with FAC, airgun, and pellets. It's really unenforceable. It is. This is the thing is, and admittedly, I said to Connors, I don't like the idea of panic buying and this, that, and the other, but I would like to hope that we will in some way, either through the RFD, because we test, because we sell products internationally, because we do regularly go abroad and compete at a very high level for Team GB. Both of us have been selected for multi-disciplines to go out and represent Team GB. So I think we have a pretty good case of being able to get one of these exemptions or derivation. Now, that's all well and good for us. Like, it's, if you're not one of those people, then then you're going to be absolutely screwed. But this is still a genuine concern that I'm fairly confident we will be able to get the exemption. We will, personally, we will be able to get the derogation, or whatever it's called. But I literally had, as I was writing notes for this stream, I just had the thought, and ran on down to Connors and was like, we generally need to buy as much lead ammunition now as we can, right? And and I'm not recommending at all that people go out there and stockpile. Again, if you don't have, if you're not one of these people that obtains this exemption, the use or sale of that ammunition will be against the law. That's where it's heading, right? So you can go and stockpile as much as you want, you still won't be able to use it, and you will be committing a criminal offense going and selling it, right? But being reasonably confident that we will get the exemption and we will be able to continue doing it, I had the thought, well, it doesn't matter if we can't go and buy it. If Hull goes out of business, or every cartridge manufacturer moves away from steel, or moves away from lead and goes to steel, or because they are now doing so small volume of lead ammunition, it becomes astronomically expensive. So yeah, you can bet that the lead shot supplies magload is going to significantly increase over the next few months. That is for sure. And also, we're looking at it that we, again, a lot of our own sponsored tutors, a lot of our friends are, high level competitors. They are competing on the world stage, internationally. We want to make sure that they can still get hold of the ammunition that they need to be able to do it. So it's not just a sort of selfish, oh, let's make sure we're okay. I still think it's going to be incredibly difficult. Those who are lucky enough to get the exemptions to continue doing it, still think it's going to be nigh on impossible for them to get hold of the ammunition that they currently can get. Bisley cannot recover the lead. They are finished. Are you saying that's because of MOD? As far as I'm aware, they do recover lead. I know they certainly skim the top of the clay ground at Bisley. English shooting, how is lead recovered anyway? Sounds like range fees will just go up. This is the point that I keep on making, that the requirements to recover lead and the requirements to put in this risk management is most likely going to be well above what ranges are currently doing, and that means higher costs. And if the ranges are spending more money, if it is costing the ranges more money, where is that cost going to get passed on to the shooter, the people using it? In terms of recovering lead, that a lot of ranges do already recover a lot of their lead, but again, it may need to be to a higher standard, which is going to take more time. It's going to take more money. Hey, don't forget, I'm here. I clicked the join button. You click. Did you join up? I didn't get the notification. Where you can click you can join the English shooting fam and get loads of emojis. Where is it? I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to use the emoji of Connors as a T-Rex? Just saying. Where were we? I'm sure Bisley have the money to construct new backstops, surely. Yes, I'm sure it is an absolute minefield for them. Probably quite literally, because it is MOD range, and it's got to be built to MOD specifications and all of this weird stuff. But yes, again, I would be confident that whatever Bisley needs to do to get itself approved to be able to use lead shot, Bisley will be able to do it. English shooting, my insurance just gave me a new phone when it got wet. Surely they should just give you a new Mac. That is what I thought they were going to do, but it's about what's most cost effective. A like for like replacement of the Mac is in the region of about £3,000 to £3,500, whereas the repairers are saying that it's about £1,400 to repair, and even Apple said it's about £1,600 to repair. So pretend you're the insurer for 2 seconds. What would you rather spend? £3,500 or 14 to £1,600? Like, I can't see anybody going for the former option. So it's about whether it's economical to repair, basically. And at the moment, the Mac's still economical to repair. I don't think it should be, but that's up to them. And maybe their opinion can be changed by a really shitty email. That's my approach in life. I wonder if I really piss them off with this shitty email, if I actually get what I want. It has a reasonable success rate. You can ask any of the car manufacturers I've had cars with. Literally on speed dial to the motor ombudsman. I guess in a way we are lucky. Our club is going to be constructing our very own range. Our club secretary is confident the range we shoot at, which he helped make, can recover 100% lead. That would be that would be very, very good. Also, what about lead for practical shotgun? Again, for anybody tuning in, basically it's going to become nigh on impossible to use any sort of lead shot, as in lead bird shot, as in anything that you put in a shotgun. Whether you the highlights. Let's bring it up again for anybody that's joined in and maybe behind. This is the big news. This is what everyone is talking about. After this was released last night, we were even talking about this. It was a UK PSA Council meeting last night, and we did spend a reasonable amount of time talking about this. This is the proposal. So this isn't, just to clarify, this isn't law yet. This isn't in place yet, but this is the recommendation that the HSE is going to be making, and it will be incredibly hard to try and dilute this or change this. So this is pretty much what we are looking at, right? So as a result of their consultation and analysis, they are proposing for lead shot a restriction on the placing on the market and use of lead shot. So again, those are two separate things, right? So the use of lead shot is going to be restricted, but also putting lead shot on the market is going to be restricted. So it's going to be difficult to sell and buy, and it is going to be difficult to use. With a derogation and exemption for individual athletes involved in target shooting as identified by the appropriate sporting body. So this is for all target shooting with lead shot, right? For quarry shooting with lead shot, it will be completely prohibited. The other thing is, whilst it may sound promising about having people that are identified by an appropriate sporting body, we don't yet know who the appropriate sporting body will be. We don't know what the requirements will be for somebody to be identified. So it might literally just be Olympians, or it may be anybody that goes abroad at a high level, be that IPSC, be that FITASC, be that English Sporting, be that Ski Olympics, whatever. We don't know yet, and this is what we've got to wait and see. In terms of rifle ammunition and airgun ammunition, there's no real change. There's no changes whatsoever for airgun ammunition. There's no changes for the use of lead bullets for quarry shooting, and lead bullets being solid, being rifle ammunition. The outdoor target shooting is going to have some changes. The sites that you use it on are going to have to be approved. Indoor target shooting with lead ammunition, lead bullets, rifle ammunition will be completely unaffected. English shooting, that comment was in reference to saying you don't get regular income from the channel. What did I miss? Oh, hey, don't forget I'm here. I clicked the join button. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. And it's greatly appreciated. 3-inch dick. It does always make me laugh when your username comes up. Sorry, yes, that is, well, when we say regular, there is like a fairly regular, consistent ad revenue from it. And yes, of course, you know, anybody that chooses directly to support the channel, I am incredibly grateful for, especially with my propensity to putting electronics in water. Oh yeah, the it's not as big of an issue as you can probably see, but the camera also did get wet. I mean, when I mess up, I mess up big, right? Don't in for a penny, in for a pound, my son. My bag contained pretty much my entire life, apart from people, pretty much everything that is important, you know, physical possessions that are important to me. My Mac, my the camera that I use usually for English shooting. So we do have two A7 IIIs now. One is effectively a magload camera, which I'm using now. Don't take Connors. And I have the A7 III, which, well, again, basically you guys ended up funding for the channel. That I ended up getting very wet. That is being repaired, no arguments. So that will come back very soon. And fortunately, I've got use of this camera for the time being. And just to cherry on top, all of my hard drives were in my bag. I can't remember why I had all of my hard drives. I've got a Lacey that has all of the footage, that it's full, literally full of footage. I don't know why I was carrying that around. That should be backed up, safe, secure somewhere. I had the hard drive that I'm currently using for like overflow footage, so projects that I'm not currently editing, which is unfortunately quite a lot at the moment, on there. And I also had the hard drive that has my wedding video on there, all of which was in the bag that got wet. Fortunately, it was the way that the camera is in the bottom of the bag. The Mac obviously is stood upright and it soaked it up through the bottom. Fortunately, the hard drives were higher up, so they got damp, but they still work. So yes, I am still here. That's how you know I still have the footage of our wedding. I'm still breathing. If one day Holly sits here and goes, yeah, you didn't make it, you know that hard drive had a catastrophic failure. Anyway, yeah, that was not a good afternoon. Is there anywhere that sums up the consultation? I've literally gone through it. You must have heard the comments were 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to assume you heard what I've just gone through repeatedly. Oh, pardon me. Did the Magload magazine blueprints get lost as well? Yes, they did. Yes. Sorry, guys. No more magazines. No point talking about it. They were lost in the great flood of 2023. Oh, for fuck's sake. Why does it always come back to the magazines? Do you want a magazine update? Nah, of course you don't. How silly of me. Soon, Connor's literally we were in conversation with the injection molders today. This is, I know we don't deserve any sympathy. I know, I really know. And again, I can't extend enough apologies to everybody that has been waiting so long. And you've put your trust in us, and you know, we have taken the piss. Not intentionally. We literally have been trying absolutely everything to get these magazines, but it is like just taking the piss now how long these magazines are taking. But if you do want to give us some sympathy, this might just help you. Literally had an email from the injection molders today, and bearing in mind, we have literally spent the last 18 months finding out what they can't do and having to make design changes, which completely changed the magazine, which means we have to go through the whole testing process again to then find out that they again can't make something. And then it just, you know, so basically Connors has become pretty much an expert in design for manufacture for injection molding. He knows pretty much all the tolerances, what the fables are of it, feebles, whatever the word is. Yeah, and we got to a point now where the injection molders went, you literally couldn't design this more perfectly for injection molded. We're happy with the design because it actually works in the gun. It's like one of the iterations they did. They put a lump on the back. They just they sent it to us, and I just wanted to pick them up and scream. But anyway, the latest correspondence to the injection molders was literally, can't we just increase the tolerances? Now, anybody that has spent any sort of time in an engineering career will probably understand how just fucking stupid it is after spending 18 months trying to nail down tolerances, design around their tolerances, give them a design that there are so many minute, minuscule, critical dimensions, to just turn around and go, yeah, but can't we just increase all the tolerances? It's like, why don't you just make it a blob? There we go. I'm sure it will load. So Connors has professionally and calmly had to tell them, no, that isn't what we are going to do. What you are going to do is make what we have just spent the last 18 months agreeing is something you can make. Stop moving the fucking goalpost. Anyway. Yes, that's where we're at. But they're slowly getting the message, and we are there is a bit of a thing that if you go onto the pre-order page, it says ETA, it still says ETA November. Yes, that was meant to be ETA last November, but there is sort of the joke now of, we never actually specified what year in November, and it sort of potentially looks like it could be November 23. So, we might hit that November deadline. We never said which year it was going to be. So yeah, there's that. So we'll see. I really hope we so by the end of November, we're like 6 weeks away. It could be doable. But yeah, in terms of like an actual update, we're just literally having back and forth with the injection molders now. They are reluctant to make. I think we have at this point made 3 or 4 injection molding tools. They are making sure that they don't have to scrap another one. So they're being very, very meticulous for once, which is encouraging, I guess. What comes first, your FAC or the mags? It would just be ironic if they land on the door. Like I run into the office going, guys, I got my FAC. We don't give a shit about that. We've got mags. That probably could potentially be one of the happiest days of my life. When I worked in engineering, we had all our parts come back to us because they were like 1 thou out of tolerance. That's it. They want us, like, we were talking millimeters. We were literally talking. They wanted to increase the tolerances in millimeters, not not a tenth, not 0.1, not 0.01, like millimeters. They just wanted us to basically make a blob. Anyway, I've just seen Federal Ballister Clean 12 gauge buck, $30 for 25, expensive, but could be used for practical, or we can all just switch to boring paper targets. What is Ballister Clean? Is that the rubber stuff that David was talking? Ballister Clean buck shop. How are you spelling that? Ballistic Clean. Federal Ballistic Clean Buckshot. Oh dear, law enforcement. That's never a good sign. Federal premium law enforcement officers ballistic aim frangible slug and buckshot. Federal premium law enforcement new ballistically aim frangible buckshot loads let shooters train hard without making sacrifices. Ballistic aim frangible slug and buckshot loads provide uncompromising reliability and performance with catalyst. The only 100% lead-free primer design proven as reliable as conventional lead Seifert primers combined with ballistically non-lead projectiles which break up upon impact with hard targets. The loads result in the safest shooting, most realistic, effective training. 100% lead-free primers. Primer compound is non-hydroscopic, has no shelf life limitations, and easily ignites a large variety of short-shell primers. Lead-free, clean and consistent. $40. See, that's not in the UK. If that came in, you know, what's that, about £1.50? If it's a direct transfer, £1.50 around. Yeah, it's on the pricier side, but we are used to paying like £1 around for slug. That's pretty normal. £1.50 around for slug. So that could actually be a very good. Well, the funny thing is actually technically buckshot and slug isn't going to be prohibited under these restrictions, right? Because a slug isn't shot. It's not bird shot. Technically, buckshot, you know, it's pellets, lead, all of that, but it's mainly the bird shot that they want to get rid of. So you'll probably find that buck and slug will be fine, but in the case that it's not, or, you know, again, it's outdoor ranges, so it has to be approved so that you can use lead ammunition on it. To get around that, you go to something like this. It would be interesting to see the ballistic data on this, and, you know, bearing in mind that premium law enforcement buck and slug, you're usually shooting a much larger target at shorter distances, if you get what I mean. For IPSC, we can regularly be shooting fairly small targets at 50 to 100 meters with buck and slug. So it would have to perform well. It would have to be accurate at distance. Otherwise, it's going to really, you know, it's not going to allow us to put on proper full matches. Yeah, that is interesting though. Thank you very much for sharing that. We'll have to make a mental note of that ammunition, see if we can get some in. And the only reason they aren't controlling lead airgun ammunition is that they deem it unenforceable. Page 53 and page 56. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Mike. So it's unenforceable. Wait, what? That's like saying we should remove speed limits because we can't catch every speeder. You know, like, sorry. Yeah, let's bring that up. Let's bring that up. Let's share screen. Here we go. So you said it's page 53 and 56. 53, 56. However, while some ambiguity around the separation of uses between bullets for live quarry and target shooting remains, the monitorability and enforceability of this option appears less viable. As such, the agency is seeking further information during the public consultation to fully assess this option. Nonetheless, this was the only risk management option taken forward into the social economic analysis for use. Live quarry with lead airgun ammunition. The only option that could reduce, I guess this is what you're talking about. The only option that could reduce risks to the environment would be a prohibition on the use of lead airgun ammunition for live quarry shooting. However, there are no viable alternatives for many airguns, and which would not inadvertently give rise to potential significant illegal use. And lead airgun ammunition would still be available for sale for indoor use. Therefore, a prohibition ban on the use would not be practicable, monitorable, or enforceable. The agency was therefore unable to identify a risk management option to be taken forward to the socioeconomic analysis for this use. Again, this does actually give quite a lot of weight to bring in the argument about indoor shotgun shooting. Like, you know, they're saying that, oh, well, you know, the people are going to continue doing it with air guns, so they're going to continue doing it outdoors, so why bother? Why doesn't that argument stack up for outdoor target shooting with bullets, with live fire guns, right? You're still going to be able to buy the ammunition to use it indoors. How are they going to monitor or enforce it being used on outdoor ranges? Right, so surely that's not monitorable or enforceable. So it's literally just a load of bollocks, isn't it? It's utter horse tripe. What did you say? 56 as well. What do they say on 56? 56. Here we go. Which part were you? Target shooting with lead airgun ammunition. The only option that could reduce the risk to the environment would be a prohibition on the use of lead ammunition for target shooting. However, there are no viable alternatives for many of the air guns, and ammunition would still be available for sale for indoor use. Therefore, a prohibition or use would still not be practical, monitorable, or enforceable. It's the same thing. So again, I think we very quickly need to establish indoor playgrounds and use that exact argument. No, sorry, you can't ban lead shot. We're still using it indoors. English shooting, will you still be allowed to use buckshot and slug for target shooting if practical ranges meet the new standards? Yeah, that we were just having that sort of conversation. We don't know. You know, slug is not birdshot. Technically, it's a slug bullet. It would come under, I would think you could argue all day long that it comes under rifle ammunition. It comes under it comes under a bullet rather than shot. So in my mind, yeah, if the range meets the criteria, you should be able to shoot slug on it. Like, look at the NRA and their so the NRA predominantly do target shotgun. They do a little bit of practical shotgun, but primarily it's target shotgun is what they're known for. And they do that on the gallery ranges. They do that on the same ranges that they're doing rifle target shooting. So it would go to say that if you're still able to shoot lead 308 and 223 and 357, why can't you shoot a lead slug on a range that is deemed safe and proper by HSE to be able to shoot all other lead ammunition? And again, I would but you would also say, well, if you can shoot all of that, why can't you shoot some birdshot? You know, why is that suddenly just so different? An extra comment to boost the YouTube algorithm. Appreciate that. Thank you. Don't forget, everyone, to hit that like button and that you're subscribed as well. Is everyone who ordered mags getting a 2-year birthday card? You say that, and I know you're probably not saying that in jest. Oh, don't forget the sweets. So, of course, with every Magload order, you get sweets. That's a given. We have already purchased the 1-year present for waiting so long. Every magazine pre-order will be getting a present in it. And Connors gave me something the other day, which I looked at him, and I was like, you do realize we have to give these with the magazines as well now? So there's definitely one really cool little present that is coming with every pre-order of the magazine. Just as a thank you, and please don't come and kill us for taking so long. There is most likely going to be two fairly cool little presents only with the pre-order. So if you want to pre-order them, feel free. They literally just admitted they can't enforce the ban. No, they can't. They literally can't. It's asinine. Moving away from lead just for a couple of minutes. These aren't really big stories, but I do like to try and keep it varied, even though we have just literally spent nearly 2 hours just talking about this. But I think that gives some signification of how big this is. Oh, we were going to go through the little consultation, have a little read. We will do that in a second. Let's just cover off these. The gun control network are getting their knickers in a twist. What else is new? Now I saw this actually pop up on Basque's website. Let me find, and I didn't. It's not really a story. So I use Basque website to see what news is about, to report on you, to report to you guys. And this was excuse me, this was Basque's story, and I saw this pop up before last week's live stream. Therese Kofi, no, I want to say Teresa, but it's not. It's like it's Tari Kofi Tari, whatever. TC MPTC gives keynote speech at Basque's rural reception, and she says something. There's been some serious incidents. Obviously, people are still dealing with the reaction, but government understands different. And there's been no matter this year. But she talks about, but she's pro shooting. She's put up a defense. I can't find the exact quote there, but there is something that she said that the gun control network have absolutely lost their minds over. And in fairness, bearing in mind this is Plymouth Live. Plymouth Live, I would, it's obviously more likely to be on the side of the gun control network at the moment than the likes of Basque. But how they describe the gun control network is brilliant. The gun control network, who warned of establishment connections with firearms lobby. Yeah, that's just called lobbying, right? Lobbyist with connections. With connections to the establishment. Yeah, that's literally their bloody job, you morons. Say they are not surprised by TC's admission at the Conservative Conference. A gun control pressure group. That's it. A gun control pressure group. I think that is probably the best explanation, or rather than a bunch of raving mad loons, gun control pressure group set up in the wake of the Dunblane massacre, has said it was appalled. And when it says, when it's a gun control pressure group and it was appalled, what they mean is, what's her name? Jill Marshall Andrews. Just must be something with people with double-barreled names. Appalled but not surprised, a government minister boasted of stopping tightening of gun control laws in the wake of Kiev shooting. TC MP for CSC. Oh, you could get into a real ABC with this one, couldn't you? Took to the stage of a fringe meeting earlier this week with members of the British Association of Shooting Conservation, which claims on its website that it's resolutely non-party political. And during her time at the lectern, she made a number of statements, including her criticism of the Right to Roam campaign. Right? Well, I thought this was about boasting about firearms. Okay. However, it was her claim to Basque regarding firearms and how she pushed back on the recommendations put forward by Plymouth's senior coroner Aaron Arrow in his Prevention of Future Death Act, which has drawn. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, come on. And the gun control networks. What? Come on, get to the quote. Following the 5-week-long inquest into the unlawful killings of 5 people, including 3-year-old girl, Mr. Arrow set down there was a risk. Oh, get to the quote. During her speech to Basque, Miss Kofi revealed, "My views on shooting have not changed in the slightest. Shooting is really important to the countryside. It matters a lot, and I can assure you that conservatives are on your side to the point. That, for example, I appreciate there are journalists in the room, so I have to see how this gets reported, but understandably, there's been some serious incidents with shotguns in parts of the country and in Plymouth and other areas like that. So it was a potential reaction that would have made it much harder for you to have used shotguns, and I stopped it. I stopped that. It is about having a sensible partnership on this approach, recognizing, of course, the police need to do their jobs as well, but also I want to trust you. I do trust you because the future of the countryside is in your hands." In response, the spokesperson for the Gun Control Network, you mean Jill Marshall Andrews, the Gun Control Network is appalled but not surprised by TC's boast to a meeting of the Gun Control Enthusiast Conservative Party conference that she had personally successfully blocked changes to tighten gun controls recommended after 5 fatal shootings in Plymouth involving a licensed gun report. It's like you saw pathetic losers. Like, it's like, this is politics, right? You have an MP that is representing its constituents, right? Is representing the rural economy, the rural constituents, the people that eat, breathe, sleep, live in in rural areas that are woefully underrepresented within politics, with their MPs usually. And all TC has done is represented them, right? She has represented the logical, thought out argument, not ban more guns, because every time we restrict firearms further, we get more crime. Maybe it would tweak at some point that we stop restricting guns because it statistically leads to more crime. So it's really just, it is like a non-story, right? An MP effectively picked a side, represented their constituents. They won the battle that they wanted to fight, and yeah, they won. Sorry, has the Gun Control Network never boasted about destroying an entire industry? Have they never boasted about people losing their hobbies, about people losing their livelihoods for nothing, right? Because of an idealism, because they think that banning handguns was going to solve crime. Still today, the largest proportion of gun crime here within the UK is committed by handguns. It solved nothing. It prevented nothing. Yet the Gun Control Network continues to boast about their success and the good that they have done. Well, the shoe's on the other foot for once. How does it feel? And there's also quite another big story, which probably don't have actually time to properly get into this evening, but it's something that I have been watching very, very closely, and it is, it is fairly interesting. I'm sure you've all seen this. An officer is charged with murder. Colleagues briefly drop their guns, and this is all about armed police. I believe it was in London. Basically, an officer was arrested after an unarmed man was killed by armed officers. And I guess it's obviously been deemed that the officer was at fault, and they have been arrested. And basically, in uproar, the armed police have said, "No, sorry, our job's hard enough. If you're going to make it even harder by putting the risk of us ending up in prison for the rest of our lives, we're not going to do this. So we're not going to carry our guns anymore. So they put down their guns. It was so serious when they did this. London had to call in the MOD. They had to call in the army because they literally didn't have armed police for a prolonged period. Now, I find this really interesting because I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets this, but as an avid shooter, all of my friends and families that don't shoot, it is a fairly common like question or topic or area of a conversation. Oh, well, you like shooting. Wouldn't it be awesome if you went into like the armed police? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Not all guns are the same. Not all shooting is the same. And, I've said to them, I say to people all the time, like, yeah, on the face of it, making, well, I've already made my career, my income around firearms and the firearms industry, but and I'm effectively already paid to train and compete and use the guns. But that aside, yeah, on the face of it, seems pretty cool. Getting paid to be an armed police officer, go and train, get to use all the Gucci cool gear, have your Glock, have your MP5, your G36, whatever, and roll around in a souped up Vagmobile. Vag is in Vag Group, whatever. It's that childhood, like, oh, that seems pretty cool. But no, first of all, I like shooting at paper. I like shooting at clay. I like shooting at steel. I really don't like the idea of shooting at people. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that want to take on that responsibility of being an armed police officer, because that is one hell of a responsibility that you are literally signing up to be the one that is going to be put into that life or death situation, to be able to, in a split second, make that call between pulling the trigger at somebody or not. Do you try and de-escalate the situation, or do you have to use full lethal force instantaneously? That is not a position I ever want to even think of being in, right? That I can't. I don't, I don't think anybody would ever wish to be in that situation, right? So they already have an incredibly, almost impossible task to be put in those situations where they literally have to make a life or death situation. And if they get it wrong, right, either way, somebody needlessly dies. It can be them or it can be somebody else. Now, it's not like they should be given carte blanche, just go around pulling triggers at people willy-nilly. If if a negligent mistake has been made, just like with any profession, there needs to be accountability for that. But I think the main point here, and the reason why so many officers put down their guns, is because potentially the degree of error needs to be wider. If you are thrown into the split second situations where you, in that split second, genuinely feel that there is a risk to yourself or colleagues or other members of the public, in a way, you can't be in that situation and hesitate, right? So it's just, and what I get the feeling from these officers is that what the Met Police are doing with this is saying, no, you should hesitate. You need to actually take that extra second to make absolutely, you should be anyway, but it's like you need to take even longer to decide, because you get this wrong, we are going to drag you over the coals. We are going to ruin your life. And it's not just that simple. It for a very black and white decision, it is so not black and white. So yeah, that's just really interesting, that, and it's interesting, but it's also scary, that our armed police they obviously don't feel supported enough to go out there and do their job. And it is not a job I envy. It is not uh, a job that is easy at all. But yes, that is those are all of um, the stories to cover this week. I feel the pain here. The GCN are insufferable. They are. And I just want to make as many people aware that it is just one sort of little old lady with a vendetta against firearms that was born out of a desire to inflate and progress her husband's political career. That's literally all the GCN is about. Her husband was an MP. They did it for political brownie points. She's just kept up with it. Obviously, literally nothing better for her to be doing. But there we go. On that note, I think I am going to call it there for this evening. Thank you everybody for joining. I hope you've enjoyed it. Before you all do head off and leave, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. We try to do this every single week to cover all the news and topics. So no doubt we will be here, same place, same time next week. In the meantime, hope you all have a fantastic week ahead, and I hope you manage to get out there, weather dependent, to do some shooting this weekend. But there we go. Stay safe, shoot straight. Thank you for joining. Hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. And of course, as always, guys, hope to see you soon.